I've listened to Is This It by The Strokes for a year and a half.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me, alone together, is Connor.
Just recording from the local Y today.
The local Y?
Yeah.
MCA?
Yeah.
Why?
MCA.
Yeah, but how come?
Just, getting some reps in the pool, working on my strokes.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I was like, what? Where is this going? What are you talking about? I can't believe I didn't see that coming.
Getting a butterfly. Maybe a little backstroke. I've never been good at the backstroke.
Really? It's just like the front stroke, but reversed.
Yeah, that's the part that gets me is the reverse part. Yeah, you really should have seen that coming.
Yeah, I should have. Well, enjoy your pool time, I guess.
Yeah, the lifeguard just went on break, so everybody had to get out. So I'm good to record for a moment.
Oh, good for a moment. Hopefully the lifeguard's on break for a good hour.
Yeah, well, the little sign he put in his chair says, be back in approximately an hour and a half.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
That's good. Approximately an hour and a half. Well, we'll see how it goes. Glad we've got enough time in the middle. Yeah, we're talking about the Strokes this week. Not the ones that you do in a pool. The ones that you'd listen to on the radio, in your earphones. What do you know about the Strokes?
I've heard of them.
I had too.
But I would not have been able to name a single song by them.
I also wouldn't have. I believe the Strokes are a band that I knew of a little bit, but then when I was out and about in a coffee shop or somewhere, I kept hearing Strokes songs. Another one of those. And I was like, why do I like all these? Who's doing this? And I was like, oh, is this it? It's the Strokes. And so I went and put on this album. Their first album seemed like a good place to start, and it also seems pretty universally agreed on to be one of the best. And I found some gems.
Nice.
So I sat on it for a year and a half, apparently.
As one does with their gyms.
As one does. Yeah, and I decided to bring it for the podcast here in the year of discovery.
You're supposed to sit on the coal though, or whatever, right? To turn it into a diamond.
Sit on the coal?
Gotta put it under pressure. Yeah.
I think you're going to need a lot more pressure than the pressure you can exert by sitting on the coal.
You underestimate my sit.
Maybe you have a heavy sit. Well, there are some diamonds in here. Yeah, I won't say that I turn them into diamonds.
I make Michael take the SATs.
That is a lot of pressure. That's how you get your coal to diamonds, subjected to academic rigor.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, speaking of academic rigor, that's kind of how the Strokes met. Kind of. They came out of New York City, and they were a trio of high school friends from the same college prep school. And in 1997, they started deciding to play music together. Figured they'd try it out, see if they could turn their proverbial coal into some diamonds. The trio of high school friends included Julian Casablancas, a singer-songwriter, Nick Valenci, a guitarist, and drummer Fabrizio Moretti. That's the early Strokes.
Why'd he get his said differently? Well, you just said artist, then title for the first two, but then you went title artist for the last one, I just thought.
Well, I wanted to mix it up.
What's so special about Moretti?
Nothing, but variety is the spice of life. Well, that trio of friends, they were having such a blast playing music, they decided to expand their ranks, and they included bassist Nikolai Fraiture, who was a longtime friend of Julian, and Albert Hammond Jr., a guitarist, who was fairly new in town, but then ended up being roommates with Julian pretty quickly. They had actually met years prior in Switzerland. Did you notice that I did it again there too? The variety thing? I said bassist.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore. I was ready for it.
Oh, good. I primed you for it with the first trio, and then you were ready to go. Perfect. Well, they officially solidified into the Strokes by 1998, one short lifetime ago. And they started writing and playing shows all around the city. Retrospectively, people have pointed to their absolutely unreal work ethic and their energy as a primary reason for their breakout success. They were grinding to get where they got. They wrote up a set list of about 14 songs that looked remarkably similar to the album we're covering today. Coincidence?
Probably.
Absolutely not.
Oh, darn it.
Yep, sorry. Nothing coincidental about it.
Turn it into a diamond over here.
What?
That was a lot of stress, getting that question wrong.
Oh, you were turning into a diamond.
Yeah, hence why I said turning into a diamond over here.
I didn't understand why you were stressed, but getting the question wrong, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're getting sat on by all the pressure. So the Strokes have their 14-song set list. They recorded demos for some of those tracks with the help of producer Gordon Raphael, who, spoiler alert, would go on to be their long-term producer.
Oh, wow.
Their demos and a little EP called The Modern Age eventually made their way into the hands of record labels. And suddenly, the Strokes found themselves in the midst of a bidding war. One of the biggest bidding wars in rock music history to that time. They landed with Rough Trade in the UK and RCA in America.
Wow.
Their popularity was growing, both at home and abroad. And before they had even put out this record, they were featured on magazine covers.
That is cool.
Making a name for themselves. That name is The Strokes. Now, from the get-go, with this album, Is This It?, their debut, they wanted to establish a really unique style. They were really heavily influenced by reggae, by punk music, and by alternative music, like along the lines of Bob Marley and Jane's Addiction and the Velvet Underground. You can definitely hear some of those elements woven into Is This It? Fabrizio Moretti said, "Our music was like The Doors, but trying to be classical. We all took music classes and tried writing songs, and when we put them together, they were this crazy amalgam of insane ideas that we thought was really cool." Julian Casablancas said of their songwriting style, "I just wanted to write music that could touch people. As a songwriter, you play a few chords and sing a melody that's been done 1,000 times, and now you're a singer-songwriter. I think it takes a little more than that to do something that matters. And I wish I could write a song where all the parts work. When you hear a song like that, it's like finding a new friend." That's really cool. Did listening to this album sound like finding 11 new friends? Or did it sound like some crazy amalgam?
Repeat the question.
Did listening to this album sound like 11 new friends or sound like a crazy amalgam of insane ideas?
Can you use it in a sentence?
Yes. Which part of it?
I don't know. That's just what they always do on the spelling bee, which is like one of the most stressful tests.
When they're trying to stall for time? Yeah, the spelling bee.
Like, what's the origin of it? And there's so many questions. Like, how does that help you at all?
Origin is actually helpful.
I guess origin could help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
The rest of them are just helpful to let you stall for time while you're nervous.
It's fair.
As a former spelling bee champion,
What, from like 3rd grade?
5th grade,
Okay, there you go.
it's important. These are the tips.
Oh man, I didn't realize I was in front of spelling bee royalty over here.
Nah, I'm not royalty. Just nobility.
Oh, okay.
Nobility. Nobility.
I could really use some more friends. So yeah, we'll say it sounded like I had 11 new friends.
Okay.
Or whatever your question was.
That's exactly kind of what my question was. Good on you to remember it after I asked it twice. Well, once the Strokes had a style and a sound that they liked.
I wish I had those two things.
A sound and a style that you liked?
Yeah.
Well, you got a sound and a style.
Yeah, it's that again, it's the last part that really gets me.
A sound and a style that you despise.
Yeah.
Well, what about your style's fine?
I don't know about all that. I would usually describe my style as lack thereof, but sure.
Okay. Well, no style is still a style. It's in right now.
Whoa, I'm in?
Yeah.
I'm in. Hackerman voice, I'm in.
Oh, see, and that's a new sound.
Wow. Should I talk like this? The whole podcast?
Probably not. The people at the Y would start to be concerned.
Connor going dark.
No, good. So, they've got a sound, they've got a style, and they get a producer. That producer is Gil Norton, the same Gil Norton who produced for the Pixies and Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. We kind of mentioned him a little bit on our episode about the color and the shape.
Did we make fun of his name?
Gil Norton?
Yeah, Gil. Like a fish has gills.
No, we didn't make fun of his name, because it's not Gil like a fish Gil.
Well, I'm glad he came back then. Well, it was a missed opportunity.
Right.
He could. They could write a little kids book called Norton Here's a Foo instead of Horton Here's a Who.
Wow, that's a really good joke that came to us 70 episodes too late.
Yeah. But that's what I said. I'm glad he came back around.
Yeah, that really worked out. Well, the Strokes were actually a little less than impressed with Gil Norton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they said he made their sound too clean and too pretentious.
Wow.
So they stuck with Gordon Raphael instead. And then they recorded over the course of 6 weeks in a basement studio in New York City's East Village. Their goal, as they said, was to create a sound that was like a band from the past that took a time trip into the future to make their record. And they wanted it to be like a near live sound and feel for the album. Not a lot of dubbing and production tricks and stuff. It wasn't very heavy either. There's a little distortion, a little reverse echo, not a ton of redos, not a ton of overdubs. Most tracks pretty much just got played once and that was about it. Is this it? Yes. Do you think it sounds like a band traveling in time? A band from the past making a record in the future?
Sounds like 11 new friends traveling in time.
That's right. It's a big time machine. 11 new friends headed to the future from the past. When they were recording, they also kept it pretty simple. They only put 3 mics on the drums. And for guitars, they stuck a mic in front of amps that were on the opposite sides of the room. And for Julian's vocals, I mean, you heard on this album how his vocals are kind of like far away and obfuscated, right? They sound like they're coming through like a loudspeaker. They didn't feed his vocals into the system directly. They put them through a little lo-fi practice amp first, which gave them that really uniquely staticky, fuzzy kind of sound. And also unique too, Gordon Raphael kind of mixed the song as they went along with recording. He would do it as they went, and pretty much he wanted to show them a rough final product as soon as they hit stop on the tape. He would be able to play back pretty much a final product for them, which is wild and very rare.
It's very easy to do when you don't want it to sound polished.
Yeah.
Or clean. Just play it back.
It sounds like it was.
Yeah.
And it's also easy, again, when you don't do overdubs, too, because every song on this album was made with fewer than 11 tracks. Like 11 instruments or microphones, tracks like that in a recording sense. No gimmicks, no tricks, is what they said. And when they presented their finished product to the record label said, we don't like this, and we don't think this will sell.
Dang.
Yeah, they said, we told you to make an album. They kind of did the same thing that they did to Willie Nelson, right? They gave him a lot of money and then came back with this bare bones album, and the label went, no.
It's not really what we thought you'd do with that money.
Yeah, this isn't what we thought. But boy, was the record label wrong. Is This It came out on July 30th, 2001 in Australia after like an iffy run of live shows where the drummer actually broke his hand. And then in the US, it came out on October 9th after being like delayed post 9/11. We'll talk more about that in a bit. There's some interesting effects that 9/11 had on this album.
Oh, really?
Which is a crazy tease to drop. But yes.
Yeah, that is a crazy tease to drop.
Yeah. But one of those effects is that it got delayed a month. In the US, Is This It peaked at number 33 on the Billboard 200, and by February of 2002, it would be certified gold. It would go on to spend more than 58 weeks on the Billboard 200, and it sold more than 900,000 copies in the US, and an additional 1.1 million worldwide. Critics loved it. Is This It has a Metacritic score of 91 out of 100. It's got 5 stars from NME, Q, and AllMusic, 4 stars from Blender and Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone's Joe Levy said, "This album is the stuff of which legends are made." In fact, Billboard, CMJ, NME, and Time would all name Is This It the best album of 2001. And The Observer called it a world-changing moment, whose impact was immediate and dramatic. And it really did a heck of a job kind of turning the culture around alternative and post-punk music. I think Is This It is subject to the same kind of effect that REM had, where it's like the granddaddy of this kind of alternative post-punk sound. And it had to walk, so a lot of stuff that came after it could run. But yeah, the surprising success of Is This It sent the Strokes on a very significant world tour. They played shows in Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Europe, North America. They even got to open for the Rolling Stones on several US dates. They played Radio City Music Hall alongside the White Stripes. Just a lot of stuff like that. To date, the Strokes have put out 6 albums. Their most recent was in 2020, and there have been a few updates about their forthcoming 7th, but not too much. They've been hard at work on it since at least 2022, but details have been scarce. I listened to some of the later Strokes before this episode. I wanted to be familiar with their later stuff instead of just their early stuff. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of it sounds very similar. I think they've really found their niche, found their groove right from the get-go. And that's cool. Anyway, as for other awards and accolades, the Strokes have earned 8 awards on 22 nominations. They've got a Brit Award as the Best International Newcomer. They've got a Grammy. The New Abnormal won Best Rock Album back in 2021. Like a fairly recent Grammy, all things considered. And they've got 4 NME awards on 10 nominations and 3 Q Award nominations. So there you go. That is the details about the Strokes. And now, if you have the Mixtaper there with you at the YMCA, I think it's time to play some Factor Spin. See if I can get a stroke of luck against him this week. After last week went so well, maybe I can ride that high, ride that wave to another strong week. But we'll see. Did you go swimming with the Mixtaper? Is he there?
No, I went alone. I didn't think that part. Wait, what? Hang on. What's he? The Mixtaper is here in a lifeguard uniform. What?
He's in a lifeguard uniform?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, Mixtaper, over here. Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Hi.
On duty.
On duty. This is new. Totally didn't realize you were a lifeguard. I thought you were just a barista and a supervillain.
Well, that's what I get paid for.
Oh, you just do this for fun?
Yeah. I like hanging out at the Y as a lifeguard and making really obnoxious rules for everybody to have to follow.
Oh, like a fish in a birdcage kind of thing.
Well, it's one of my dastardly tricks. You see somebody having too much fun, so you just make up a rule to prevent them from having that fun in the future. Classic lifeguard thing.
Oh, yeah.
Power trip.
Well, they wouldn't put up the sign if they didn't have a story behind it.
Exactly.
What rules have you made up today?
I saw a kid hanging out in the pool with like a floaty,
Uh-huh.
arm floaties on, to help them learn how to swim.
Yeah, that's important.
So I made a rule that says no arm floaties on Wednesdays.
Oh, well, today's Friday, so.
Exactly. Now it can't be traced back to, it's not discrimination.
Oh,
right? I'm
yeah,
not targeting that
targeting
kid.
that kid.
Exactly.
Wow, that is dastardly.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Well, I'm coming off my first perfect week in like 150 episodes.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were recording today. I'm glad that Connor happened to be here with all of his recording stuff.
Yeah, who knew?
I might have to make a rule about this. No recording podcast recording equipment next to the pool.
On Wednesdays.
Yeah, because today's Friday, so it's fine.
Yeah, okay, good.
On any day but Friday. So today's the exception.
Okay, that's reasonable.
So anyway, yeah, let me pull up my notes here. Factor spin. No, not the new coffee. No. Gopher outfits. Here we go. Factor spin.
Factor spin about the Strokes.
Oh, the Strokes. Hang on. No.
Shoot.
Okay. Strokes about factor spin. No, that's not what I want. So there we go. Factor spin about the Strokes. Got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, again, I hope we don't have any facts about Strokes like the medical situation.
Oh, hang on. Hang on. Strokes medical, Strokes swimming. Aha, Strokes the band. Got it.
Strokes the
Factor spin
band.
about Strokes the band.
Perfect. We're ready to go.
We're ready to go. Oh, wait, do you want to go? Like, now that we're ready to go,
Oh.
do you want me to actually go?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay, well, then in that case, let's start. I'll let you pick this week because I don't think I have anything that's particularly final rampy.
Okay.
Do you want to hear about them losing their drummer, about an X-rated tour poster, about a methadone clinic, or about fighting a mailbox?
I'd like to hear them all eventually.
But what would you like to hear first?
Let's start with the X-rated tour poster and just kind of get it over with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. We can start there.
Sure.
They had an X-rated, I guess, flyer is the more appropriate word than poster, of Nick Valenci.
Okay. What made it so X-rated?
Well, this was back in the early 2000s. They were like, mainly getting gigs in New York City bars.
Yeah. Sure, that makes sense.
And so they were kind of doing guerrilla self-promotion, making their own flyers, just hanging them up all over the place, whether they were supposed to or not. And they had a gig coming up at the Mercury Lounge,
Okay.
which is a lounge named Mercury in New York City.
Yeah, I do think I've heard of that one.
Anyway, they were trying to figure out how they were going to promote when they remembered they had a really X-rated picture of Nick. And they jokingly said, well, sex sells, right? So maybe this would make a good poster.
Maybe this would sell.
And without Nick's blessing, they did it anyways.
Oh, boy, that's rough.
Yeah, they got the image after he was caught having fun with someone backstage after a previous gig. They snapped a picture of him in a compromising position.
Yikes. Well, this sounds awful. This sounds super... Ugh.
I mean, it's one of those things that he was like, no, guys, why me? But he...
Yeah.
Yeah, boys being boys, as they classically say.
Sure.
He is tastefully covered for the most part, but the positioning and the lack of clothing still makes it pretty X-rated.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I figured. It couldn't be, like, pornographic.
Yeah,
Just normal graphic.
exactly.
But did it work? Did people show up?
I mean, they're famous now, so...
Well, I bet they're not famous because of it. Maybe they're famous in spite of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was successful or not.
I'm going to say this one's a spin.
Ooh, going with spin.
Yep.
Before I tell you the answer, I mean, you can lock it in if you'd like.
No, we'll keep it soft locked for now.
Oh, okay. Apparently, Nick has since embraced the joke, and he tells a story about some people snagging the flyers, I guess, that were like their fans at the time. Mm-hmm. And he has signed them, thanks for the exposure.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but anyway, spin, huh?
You know what? That little tidbit at the end was almost too good for you to have made up. It's very funny, and I think that might sway me back to fact.
How dare you?
I think that was good enough to make the untrue true.
So we're going with fact then.
Yes, gonna be clear and lock in fact. I think it's true.
Well, that'll teach you to underestimate my comedic chops, because this is a true fact.
Oh,
spin. Spin.
What?
It's a spin.
Well, why would you do that?
I just really wanted you to ride the roller coaster.
Roller poster because it's about a flyer.
That's funny. Yeah. No, I just really wanted you to be like, oh no, it's a spin, and then it's a true fact. Oh, it's a spin. I really wanted you to. It's a spin.
But yeah, but you said fact like fully. That's not.
I didn't put the T on it. Fact.
You're gonna confuse people.
Spin.
That was fake.
That's fake. It's fake. No poster.
Well, good comedic chops on you then.
Thank you. I thought that pun was funny.
It was. I should have stuck with spin.
I'm a little offended that you didn't think I could come up with it.
Well, it's not that I didn't think you could. I just didn't think you did.
It's rare that my last second tidbits change your mind.
Well, it's rare that I go from spin to fact, ever. Yeah. There goes my perfect week.
Woo! All right, now that stress is gone, I'm feeling a little less diamondy.
Little more returning to coal.
Yeah, my natural state. Where do you want to go next? Drugs, mailboxes, or missing drummers?
Missing drummers does sound really interesting. I think that's a good next spot to stop.
Speaking of stops, they once accidentally left Moretti behind at a highway rest stop.
Yikes. That's unfortunate. So what's their situation at the rest stop? Are they in like a tour van? They in several vehicles? They in a bus?
Yeah, they had a van.
Okay.
Or a cramped van, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Let me set the stage for you. 2001.
2001.
A grueling U.S. tour.
Yes.
5 bandmates and their tour manager barreling down the interstate in a cramped van on their way.
Barreling? That's just a fast way to drive.
Yeah. On the road, having come from a sweaty show in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh. O-H.
I-O.
U-O.
Sometime around 3 a.m. pull into a lonely little rest stop area off of I-71 for a quick pit stop.
Okay. See, 3 a.m. is a hard time to lose somebody because who else is around? You know? I guess you'd be sleepy. Mm-hmm. But you'd surely notice if you left someone just dying in the bathroom, right? I assume the situation was he had to take care of number 2, you know?
Fab, who had been dozing off against the window, perked up at the chance to stretch his legs.
Okay.
Went inside to use the restroom.
Uh-huh.
As did most of the other members of the conclave. Is conclave I don't think that's a word I should use there.
No,
Is that right?
I don't think that's quite it.
Close enough. Moving on with the story.
Can you give me the language of origin?
No.
Appoggiatura.
And the problem was, one by one, they come back out, zombie walking back to the van.
Mm-hmm.
And one by one, their tour manager counts off their heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heads bobbing in the dark.
Oh, no, but that's not correct.
That's not correct, because he forgot that number includes himself. There are 6 of them.
So he counted to 5 and said we're good to go when he was supposed to count to 6?
Yeah.
He counted his own head and then only 4 of the band. Okay.
And with a roar of the engine, off into the night they drive, leaving their drummer sitting probably on the toilet still, but at the rest stop.
Sitting on the toilet at the rest stop.
Underneath the fluorescent glow of an Ohio rest stop sign.
Man, that's like what happened to Rob Thomas on that Matchbox 20 album. So how does this get resolved? They obviously have to at some point notice he's missing and come back, right? 2001 is pretty pre-cell phone days. Mm-hmm. Is that what happens?
Well, you see, before we get into the rest of the story, here are a couple signs that maybe your band has left their drummer behind.
Oh, ways that you as the audience can avoid this in the future.
Yeah, ways you can tell if you've accidentally left your drummer behind.
1, there's leg room.
The van is unusually peaceful.
Peaceful?
No one cracking jokes or, banging around on the car as a drummer would.
At 3 a.m.
A lone pair of drumsticks sitting in the seat where the drummer should be.
That is a giveaway. That is a pretty dead giveaway.
Yeah, that's really the only 2 I had. But those are the signs. Those are the main signs that you've maybe left someone. In the modern age, maybe a phone call from your drummer going, guys, you left me. But that was unfortunately not an option.
That is a good way to tell.
For the Strokes back in 2001.
This is a stroke of bad luck.
Stroke of bad luck, yeah. But luckily, it only took them 15 minutes of highway driving for someone to realize that Fab was not in the car.
But then you got to find an exit and turn around.
So that's a half-hour journey at least, because you got to go 15 minutes back the other way.
Yeah, and 45 minutes lost off of your drive. Brutal. I think this is true.
Thinks this is true.
Yeah, it is a little weird that we haven't had a fact like this in 190 bands or something, but I kind of believe it. You know, they're young, they're excited, they're on tour, they're crammed in a van. Yeah, I think take it or leave it. If it is their drummer, well, they left it.
This is a sign that you got this one wrong, because this is a spin.
Oh, man.
One surefire sign that tells you messed up on this round of fact or spin. He tells you you're wrong.
Really, that is about the only surefire sign I have. Sometimes even when he tells me I'm right, I'm wrong. It's tough out here.
Another spin.
I'm just slowly turning into a diamond. The pressure is mounting.
I had a whole bunch of stuff in here that I could have used about like quotes after the fact of them joking around with him when they picked him up. That like, oh, we thought you were just asleep under the seat, and just silly, goofy little things. But didn't even need to get into all that.
No, you did not.
Because he locked in fact for me.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Had that he was flipping him the bird as they pulled back in. But yeah, that's 2 for me. At least getting my 50-50. It's much better than last week.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunate. But oh well, here we are. Let's see. We've got fighting a mailbox and drugs.
Indeed.
I kind of want to save fighting a mailbox for last. It sounds ridiculous. So let's go with drugs next.
All right. You mentioned this album that you and Connor are talking about today was recorded in a basement studio in New York City.
That is true.
Well, I'm here to tell you that basement studio was beneath a methadone clinic.
That's great. Can you tell me more about methadone?
I sure can. What would you like to know?
I mean, start at the beginning.
With the origin of the word?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Methadone is a long-acting opioid medication.
Yeah, like meth.
That is used to reduce withdrawal symptoms in people addicted to heroin or other narcotic drugs. So it's like a good opioid.
Yeah.
Because it's long-acting, you don't get quite the high that you get unlike your other opioids, right? So you can still get as you ease yourself off of the harder stuff, you know, it can lessen the withdrawal symptoms. So it's given to people who are strung out to prevent them from crashing too hard.
Sure. Like conceptual nicotine patch for harder drugs.
I guess. Sure. Is that what nicotine patches are used for?
Well, to quit smoking, you don't want to breathe in all the harmful chemicals, so you get the same nicotine kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So this is a clinic for that.
Yeah.
And it's above them, like directly above them. I mean, New York has a lot of tall buildings.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing directly above them. And they had their tiny little recording studio, the Transportarium, tucked underneath it.
Interesting.
And every morning as they would, I don't know, probably not morning for these yahoos, but every day when they had to come work on their, every time they came to record for their album, they'd have to sidestep a line of recovering drug addicts waiting for treatment upstairs. The Transportarium itself was a cramped little cellar space with low ceilings and walls painted in garish red and purple glitter.
Sounds lovely.
And it wasn't well soundproofed.
Oh, gosh. So everyone up above heard them?
Yeah, and so they sent a lot of strung out druggies. They sent them into a frenzy. We thought we'd cause them to have a heart attack, is the quote.
Oh, not a, stroke. It was right there. I don't know why they didn't say it that way.
Yeah, well, they didn't.
It's a lot harder thing to cause than a heart attack, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is true. There's a song on this album called Soma about a happiness drug. I don't know if it's related or not, but that definitely could be a clue. I kind of think I believe this. When you're a young band, you're on a budget. This is the thing that you deal with sometimes. You're not always in the nicest of studios.
Sure.
But I'll lock in fact.
This is a true fact.
Oh, for real.
For real.
Okay.
Put the T on it. Fact.
Just making sure I wasn't riding the roller coaster.
Fact.
Okay. Okay, true fact. Honestly, I was like, one of the things you say has to be true. At least. Like, it can't all be lies.
I almost turned this one into a spin. I almost, because of the unpolished sound they went for on this album, I almost tried to throw in there that in the original release of it, it was so unpolished you could actually hear people in the background from the clinic. I thought about, because they have the detail about how unsoundproofed it was, and then...
Yeah, and just how raw the recording kind of was.
Yeah, I thought about throwing that in there to make it a spin, but I didn't. I left it true.
I'm glad you didn't, because... that would have been confusing. I probably wouldn't have believed it, but who knows?
Yeah. Plus, what were the odds I'd get you to change your mind twice?
I don't think heroin is a drug that makes you particularly, loud.
Yeah, I don't know. Having never done the stuff, can't say.
That's good, Mixtaper. Proud of you.
Yeah, I'm high on life.
Yep.
I'm high on dastardly deeds.
High on lifeguarding.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, well, last but not least, we've got this fact about fighting a mailbox.
Indeed. I call this one Moretti versus the Mailbox, a stroke story.
See, I knew I had to save this one for last. It's got a title and everything. So, Fabrizio Moretti is fighting the mailbox.
Yeah, well, you mentioned he broke his hand on tour.
I did mention that he broke his hand.
This is that story.
This is the story of how he broke his hand. Punching, I assume, a mailbox?
I mean, you can assume whatever you'd like.
Okay, that's where I'll begin my assumptions. Well, what'd that mailbox do to him?
Absolutely nothing.
Of course.
He was an innocent mailbox.
No, he's just a mailbox. Flag down or up?
I like to think up.
Yeah, see, because that could be misinterpreted.
Actually, it wasn't even one with a flag.
Oh, like a blue mailbox? Like a real one?
Yeah, well, but this one was red, but yeah.
Okay, that's fighting colors.
It was one of the Royal Mail mailboxes.
Oh, for the Brits.
So they're red. Yeah. If you'd like to see what one looks like. Just so your mind is in the right space for this fact.
Well, I feel like it's going to look like a mailbox. And it does not actually look very much like a mailbox.
Yeah, so now I just imagine punching that.
So what you've shown me is like the size of a safe. Like it's very tall, right? That looks like it's got to be 4 feet tall at least.
Yeah, it's like one of the ones that are on the out on the street that you can just put mail in. At the little slot, you drop your mail in.
Yeah.
It's a door so that the mail man can pick it up.
And he punched
Open it up and get all the mail.
Why did he punch it? Intentionally?
Oh, yeah.
What for? Was it to like vent his frustration?
Yeah. It was either that or punch the guy that was making fun of his friend.
Oh, okay. So he's walking along the streets of, I guess, some British city.
The streets of Glasgow.
Oh.
Him and his buddies, including Adam Green of indie duo The Moldy Peaches, who opened for their show.
Gross.
They were hungry, exhausted, and trying to go find some post-gig curry.
Well, post-gig. It's all making sense.
But they didn't have time to change out of their gig outfits before going, or I guess they chose not to.
Uh-oh. So they look abnormal.
Especially Adam Green, who had decided to perform that night in a Robin Hood costume, complete with the green tights and feathered cap.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're waiting outside the curry spot when some Glaswegians decide to start heckling.
That's not the real word.
I bet you it is. I don't know. I actually don't know if it is, but it should be if it's not.
It shouldn't be, and it's not.
Glaswegian accent. Hang on. I start typing 18 Glaswegian sayings you should know. Glaswegian accent.
Oh, it is.
Glaswegian. Wikipedia. The Glasgow vernacular. Yeah, look at that. That's twice you've underestimated me in this round of Factor Spin. Don't let it happen a third time.
No, this time I attributed that to your creative power. Last time I undermined it. This time I thought you made that up.
But at the underestimation of my knowledge of words.
Of your knowledge of Scotland. Yeah, I did sell you short on your Scottish knowledge a wee bit.
A Ouijian bit. Anyway, some Glaswegian hecklers start mocking poor Robin Hood.
I'll be darned.
It's blown your mind, hasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Honestly, I don't even care if you get this one right or not. I've won.
Like what kind of...
Simply off of that.
The suffix Wegian? Yeah. Like I thought it was just for Norway because the W leads into it.
All right.
But like Glasgow, I mean, it's at the end of the word, but it's not at the S where they put it.
Oh, you thought Norwegian was because of Norway? Because
Norwegian.
It's kind of leaguing in.
Yeah. So,
but apparently Wegian is
just part of the W's part of the suffix.
Yeah, interesting.
Because I just don't know of any other Wegians except for Norway and now Glasgow.
How many Wegians do you know?
How many Wegians are there?
I don't know. I googled how many Wegians are there, and I got a link to University of Iowa Libraries Publishing on the Scandinavians come to Iowa.
So Reddit seems to suggest, take it with a grain of salt, that Glass and Nor are the only Wegians.
Wow, there's only 2 Wegians?
2 legions of Wegians.
Now, take that into mind with like how many people, become citizens in multiple like areas from a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
And you could become a dual citizen of the only 2 Wegians. You could be a double Wegian.
Well, that is if Norway and Scotland allow you to do dual citizenship.
But imagine the percentage, right? Then we determined that like it was a super low, like of the countries that actually allowed it. Like that just is a whole nother level of deep. Like imagine if they did. and then you became a dual citizen of both, and you were a double wegian.
It looks like it happens in other Scandinavian places sometimes.
I see.
Like Galway.
Galwegian.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start making everything Wegian. Swegian.
For the Swedish.
Yeah, Swegians is a fun one. Just add an S to it.
I'm Ameriquegian.
Ameriquegian. That's pretty good.
And I'm proud to be an Ameriquegian. Anyway, we really lost the thread. Walking down the street, they're making fun of Robin Hood. Fabrizio says, "Hey, you can't do that. We're merry men."
Yeah, his merry men come to his defense, and Fab starts shouting at the taunters, telling them in very colorful language to go away, to which they don't, and they're on the verge of actually fighting, but frontman Julian Casablanca says, whoa, can't actually fight. It's not good for any of us.
Let's put these petty quarrels aside.
Fab, walk it off. He kind of gives them the whole walk it off sort of, get out of here thing. And he storms off. As he storms away, he sees our innocent victim in this whole ordeal.
That's right.
The mailbox. Overflowing with adrenaline and anger, he turns and slugs our poor Mailwegian.
Mailwegian?
Breaking his hand and its feelings.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Thus beginning the historic feud between the Strokes and mailboxes everywhere. They're still at war to this day, some even say.
Wow, the beat goes on. They're fighting it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. I know he broke his hand. That checks out.
Yep.
I know you didn't just randomly pluck Glaswegians from nowhere, so you've clearly done your research on Glasgow. I think that's enough to make me say it's a fact.
That's fine. I'm not trying to persuade you necessarily to change your answer with this statement, but I feel I would be doing you a disservice not to ask you this question.
Uh-huh.
Do you think there's a chance I learned about Glaswegian and really wanted to talk about it on this podcast?
Oh, and just like maybe this is true, except it's not set in Scotland. That's a possibility I hadn't considered.
That's what you have to ask yourself. Yeah, not saying, one way or another. I really don't care. I've already got the 50-50. But it's a question I thought I'd ask.
I'm standing by fact. I think Glaswegian is too fun. I don't see why you'd look up Glasgow otherwise.
Well, what makes you think I looked it up? Half the things I want to talk about on this podcast, I didn't look up.
That's true.
I just found.
Like shrimp punch glass. Like whatever. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just throw words in the blender.
Anyway, you're going with fact?
Yeah, I'm going to lock in fact. Moretti versus the Mailbox's Strokes story seems to be true, with some real-life morals and applications.
This fact is a documentary, because it's true.
True fact. 50-50. Whew. A stroke of neutral luck.
Good job.
Not good luck for me this week, but neutral luck.
I'm glad we ended on that one. It went where I did not think it would go. We got on quite the tangent about wegians. I did not expect.
I don't know how you didn't expect it. Who could have guessed?
To be fair, I didn't expect you to be like, that's not what they're called.
You just took the wegian for granted.
And then you notice how I was like, it absolutely is. And then I doubled back and went, or at least maybe not, but it should be. Because I knew it was. Because I knew this was a true fact.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh wait, I can't be so obvious about it.
You wanted to defend your honor, but also not make me think it was true too much.
Yeah. So what have we learned this round of Factor Spin?
Well, we've learned that all their tour posters have been pretty appropriate.
I don't know if we can go that far, but
album covers, we could talk a different story here in a minute. We've learned that they've always had Fabrizio Moretti with them as they left rest stops. We've learned that their basement studio was beneath a methadone clinic, and we've learned to find softer things to punch when friends make fun of your Robin Hood pal.
And most importantly, what have we learned?
We've learned that there's very limited regions of wegians.
Oh, I like that. That's not where I was going. But sure, that's the most important thing we learned. I was going to say don't underestimate me and my ability to make funny jokes or knowledge of Scotland. But
oh, yeah.
I like regions of wegians.
Yeah, there's 2 wegian regions.
Well, I see some people having too much fun over at the Y. I better go make a new sign with a new rule on it.
Okay. You could do like Wegian Wednesday, where I don't know what that means. If you're Wegian, you get half off or something.
This is why you don't work at the Y. You just don't get us.
No, I guess I don't.
Yeah!
We'll see you next week. Welcome back, Connor, for the next part of this episode where we talk about the album art.
That is usually the next part.
It is, but it's a little more suggestive than their apparent tour posters are. The album cover, if you're American, the album cover that you're seeing on streaming services is very different than the real one, the original one, the intended one.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. The international album cover is a photo of a rump. It's a woman's backside with a glove on it. Very suggestive, very thought-provoking.
A very, specific glove.
A very specific glove. Yeah, that's true. The photo is by Colin Lane, and it's from a spontaneous photo shoot he did with his girlfriend as she finished taking a shower. He said we did about 10 shots, and there was no real inspiration. I was just trying to take a sexy picture. It ended up actually being included in the book, The Greatest Album Covers of All Time.
Oh, really?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Just because of how controversial it was?
Maybe.
I mean, because it's not particularly thought-provoking or, good.
No, it's not. And it's not even that. He said himself there's no inspiration.
Yeah, so I think that placement has to be simply because of what it did to the cultural space at the time.
I think that's probably true. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because it's just a glove and a butt.
A little bit of pelvis in there.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I can buy the album cover poster from Etsy of this album art. Why would I want that?
If you want glove and butt on your wall.
Who wants that? Who's making that? That can't be copyright. That can't be copyright.
Definitely not copyright compliant. That belongs surely to someone else than the Etsy shop you're looking at.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's probably the one we'll use for the episode. It'll just be, instead of glove and butt, it'll be glove and logo.
That's funny.
In the more prudish America, the glove and butt album cover was replaced with what you'll probably see, again, on streaming services, most places, this psychedelic, colorful photo of a subatomic particle in a bubble chamber.
You're a subatomic particle.
Dang, I'm wegian. It's, think like atoms bouncing around in a pressure cooker, right? That's what this is a picture of. Little just electrons and subatomic particles just doing their thing and zipping around. According to RCA, it was straight up a band decision to have this album cover replace the glove and butt one. The band's manager said it was Julian's idea. In fact, he saw the photo and he called up their manager and he excitedly proclaimed, "I found something even cooler than the butt picture."
And the manager was like, doubtful, but go ahead.
I don't think so. Have you seen it? It's a glove and butt. And he said, yeah, but look, atoms.
And he's like, oh, that is cooler.
Yeah, it's a chaotic album cover. Pretty fun. But without further ado, let's get into it. We've got 11 new friends to meet.
And friend number 1, is this it?
Is this it? Is this the first friend? Yeah, track 1, opening up this album. Fun fact, they deliberately left the question mark off the album title and this track because they thought it made it more punchy and aggressive. The question mark didn't look right.
I said the whole point of they should put an exclamation mark to make it more punchy. That's what it does.
But that doesn't make sense. Is this it? It's not an exclamation. It's a question.
Is this it?
Your monster truck rally is showing again.
Come on. What'd you think of Is This It?
It is an interesting song. It's a little slower than the rest of the album.
It is this.
It is this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the tempo I expected coming into this album.
No, especially with an album cover of atoms flying around. It's really chill. I'm caught by, that radio intro is really kind of interesting, that blippy bloopy thing. But his voice and that, again, kind of cheap lo-fi speaker sound that they produce it with, that lasts for the duration of the album, I think it's really interesting. And it's unique. It's like a signature kind of sound. I think it's fatiguing maybe a little bit by the end of the album. I just want to hear a clean vocal. Sometimes, somewhere. You don't get it. And I think that's okay as a stylistic choice. But just get ready, get used to it. It certainly does have that live feel to it, though. What did you think of it? Having not listened to the Strokes to the best of your knowledge.
I found myself distracted by the cool guitar.
Yeah, this is a very much like a guitar band.
Yeah.
And you know how I feel about that. Kind of love it.
You hate the guitar.
No.
Dang it, I got another one wrong. Idiot.
Yeah, sorry. No, it's too much. You're putting too much pressure on yourself.
That's how I'm going to become a diamond.
Yes, persevere.
In the rough.
Yeah. Well, as far as the album title went, Casablanca said when we were trying to find titles for the record, it could have been called Take It or Leave It, or any of them, but I thought it sounded cool in more ways than one. He thinks that Is This It is deep without being pretentious. I think that's fair.
They were very worried about sounding pretentious.
They really were. That's why they fired Gil. That's why they changed the title to Is This It? I think Is This It is a cool title because it doesn't have to be answered. It's a question that you can ask and it doesn't have to be answered. Is this it? I'm just searching for something, searching for more. Is this it?
Mm-hmm. Can't you see I'm trying?
Can't you see? We're not enemies. We just disagree. Is This It? Short little opener. Honestly, a short album overall. A lot of quick tracks here. But The Modern Age is up next. The Modern Age was the track from that early EP that sparked that huge bidding war between labels. It was their debut single. And of course, the version that you hear on the album is a re-recorded version from the original, but still very cool to know that, their debut mostly sounded pretty much like this. It's a little more upbeat than Is This It?
Yeah, I mean, instantly more upbeat with that kick drum.
Big time. A snare. There's still a lot more drum in general. And then when he starts coming in this time, you know what I really heard in The Modern Age? A ton of Velvet Underground inspiration.
Yeah. But is there any Pizza Underground inspiration?
Probably not. I doubt it. But you can't get more Lou Reedy than the way that he sings that first verse without being Lou Reed.
Yeah. Their whole sound, you can tell, is inspired in no small part to the Velvet Underground.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a little more structured in most places than the Velvet Underground kind of is, at least on the Velvet Underground and Nico that we did. Some of that gets a little chaotic and fluid. This album's got a lot of rigidity where that one wouldn't. But just in general, yeah, their style and their sound emulates it a lot. I think The Modern Age is a less memorable melody than Is This It, even though I like it better. I also think this is a moment where I start to realize how relentless the guitar is. Because on The Modern Age, it's a lot more power chords and a lot more persistent, just constant da-da-da-da-da-da guitar. Whereas, Is This It? We kind of had some lead lines and some single guitars that were just playing one note. This is just a lot of guitar a lot of the time.
I don't know. Their sound's not really my thing, so I'm trying to be open-minded and try to listen for it for what it is and like technically and stuff, and not so much just my taste, but it's a struggle.
It's a struggle. The whole album sounds this. This whole album is just a stew of the Strokes.
Yeah, and just like he has that like monotone, I don't want to call it monotone, but he's got like that droning sound to his voice.
Yeah, there's a lot of repetitivity in here, and he does kind of that Lou Reedy-ish, like talk singing almost.
Yeah.
In a lot of spots. But that's fair. It's a very 2001 album, end to end. It definitely shows its age. I think it still, holds up in a lot of ways, but it definitely sounds like, if at any point it sounded like a band from the past making an album in the future, now it sounds like a band from the past making an album in the lesser past. I do think my favorite melody on the album so far comes in the form of track 3, Soma. We've talked about Soma before.
Soma what?
Soma the drugs. Because that's what it is, right? Soma it's a pleasure drug from Huxley's 1932 novel, Brave New World. It keeps you happy. It sedates you.
Maybe they need some methadone.
Yeah, methadone. When the Mixtaper talked about the methadone clinic, I thought about this song. Also, it's the title of a song we talked about way back on the Smashing Pumpkins Siamese Dream, which Soma is better, if you can even remember back that far.
When was it?
Episode 14 is when we talked about Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, okay, so I was gonna actually, I saw in one of these tracks, I had a note that it sounded very Smashing Pumpkin-y.
Really?
But worse.
Interesting.
Because I actually kind of enjoyed Smashing Pumpkins a little bit.
Yeah.
Would I give them like a 7 or an 8?
Woof. That's telling about what you think about this album. They sounded a little like Smashing Pumpkins, which surprised me because I actually liked the Smashing Pumpkins. You're showing your hand.
Yeah, I gave Smashing Pumpkins an 8.
Yeah, I'd imagine you liked their Soma better.
I definitely did. Probably. I didn't even remember they had a Soma until you brought it up, but just based off of my knowledge of this one, probably like the other one better.
Yeah. I like the lyrics, though. Soma's what they would take when hard times opened their eyes. Saw pain in a new way.
Hard times are how you become a diamond.
Oh, see? Yeah, Soma is what keeps you cold. It relieves the pressure. I just like the contrast between the guitar that keeps going up and up and his vocal melody that goes down and down and down. I think those play against each other really well.
I do think Soma has probably been my favorite of the first 3.
I'd back that, yeah. Up next, a song that hasn't aged as well, Barely Legal. When they made it, way back in 2001, they were kind of more all about it. In 2018, years down the road, Casablanca said Barely Legal kind of makes me cringe a little bit. I get it, it's sassy and youthful, and I don't judge it or think about it, but these days, I make what I feel like I want to hear. And I guess what he wants to hear nowadays is not Barely Legal. Yeah, it's a song about young love.
Yeah, apparently almost too young.
Yeah. Yeah, yikes. It's more just persistent guitar. There's not a lot of empty space in these songs.
I do like the guitar on this album.
Me too.
The drums are aight. They're pretty decent.
Yeah, you can't leave those behind at the rest stops.
No. It's mainly just, I think, the lyrics and the singing. The singing itself. Instrumentally, I like this album.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's interesting how much they make their instrumental parts sound so similar, and yet each one is like a little distinct.
Yeah.
Because they don't change from that heavy downbeats like that big strum style. But every song has its own flavor in spite of that, which I think is a really interesting way to construct a record. But honestly, the middle of the album kind of gets even stronger for me. Like the beginning is alright, the middle is really where things kick up with Someday. It is the second most popular song on the album according to the Spotify plays, up to 500 million. And it was the third and final single. Someday peaked at number 17 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart in the US. Pitchfork would go on to rank Someday the 53rd best song of the 2000s, and it's certified platinum in the US. This is a happy, sunshiny song. Someday has a great melody. I honestly, a lot of the things that I could complain about in the previous tracks, I can't complain about on Someday. I think it hits the nail on the head, and Someday is exactly what the Strokes have aspired to be on this record, and they nail it.
Yeah, I don't know if nailed it is what I would say, but
I don't know.
I also wouldn't say they screwed it.
Well, that's fair.
They command stripped it.
Okay, it's hanging in there.
Yeah, just don't put too much weight on it.
I think if you're going to point to two tracks on this album that are what the Strokes want to be, Someday is one of them, and the other one is coming up not too far away. Do you recognize Someday at all?
I do.
I thought you might.
I don't know from where.
Well, it has some fun sync placements. It's been in some video games and stuff, but probably one place that you might recognize it from is Adam Sandler's movie Click, where he has the remote.
Oh, that's it. Yep, where he's got the remote. Yep.
That's
absolutely what I recognize it from.
I've never seen the movie. I don't know how the song's used in it, but if you recognize it from that, it must be prominent enough. Also, fun trivia for Someday. The music video features some cameos from Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses. And Richard Karn, who's Al from Home Improvement, among other things.
Wow.
Yeah. What a bunch of gets for the music video. I haven't seen it. I don't even know the premise, but Guns N' Roses and Al is in it. I think one of the things that makes Someday different is there's a couple moments where they let it breathe. Like there's a drum solo in there for a split second, and I don't know, it's just nice. They give that song the space it needs. And then they carry the drum solo kind of thing on into Alone Together. Great song title. I've seen it other places. Conceptually now, 24 years later, maybe a little played out, but in 2001, who knows? And it hangs itself on a really cool guitar hook. Do 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 do.
We're getting better as the album goes on so far. You know, each track 1 through 5 has been an improvement on the one before it.
Well, maybe that's why they structured it that way, or maybe you're getting used to it as you go.
I don't know.
But I definitely agree with that sentiment. I do feel like they're getting somewhat stronger. I mean, Someday is obviously a standout track, and it's above Alone Together, but in general, I think a lot of things they're doing on Alone Together, they weren't doing on the first few tracks. So that makes sense.
Yeah, Alone Together, though, breaks that, unfortunately. I mean, it's sandwiched between two powerhouses.
Yeah, it is.
So it's a little blip.
It is Alone.
But it's still better than some of the earlier tracks. So, you know, it's not a full drop.
That's interesting. The Spotify plays wholly disagree with you.
Yeah, I'm aware. But if you, like, switched Alone Together with Someday, the streak would have continued.
Sure. That makes sense.
I think Alone Together is better than the first 4 for me.
Yeah, that's fair. But it is sandwiched in here between Someday and the other track that I would say the Strokes really nailed from this first album, Last Nite.
Spelled N-I-T-E.
N-I-T-E night. That's right. R-I-T-E. It was the second single. Last Nite was their first charting single in the US, and it cracked the top 5 on the Modern Rock Tracks chart. It is pretty much regarded as one of the best indie and best guitar songs of all time. Rolling Stone put Last Nite as high as number 155 on their list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. How do you feel about that?
I recognize Last Nite as well. I've heard Last Nite. I didn't realize that was the Strokes.
Yeah, I definitely also recognized it. Couldn't have named it, couldn't have told you about it.
And it's a great song. It's a good song. This is getting better, right? Switch Alone Together and Someday, and we're just 7 songs in a row, straight up.
All rise. It's all rise.
It's what you want to see your stocks doing, you know? It's all rise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure this song has been in a lot of different things, and that's why I recognize it. But
you know, I didn't look. Let me check it out.
I mean, if it's one of the most popular indie and whatever you said, it probably has been.
That's true.
It's an easy favorite for me from the album.
I think that makes sense to me. And if I'm fully honest, 2 of the major reasons I picked this album for the podcast are Last Nite and Someday.
Yeah. It's just he actually sings with some movement, both dynamically and energy and note-wise. Like, if he sang more like that on the rest of the album, on top of the already really good instrumentals, I think my score would be a lot better than it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But here we are.
One of the things that's cool about Last Nite, and I guess I never would have put 2 and 2 together, but once I know it, and I can't unhear it. Last Nite was inspired by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' American Girl.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about them on episode 164. It's a song I love. American Girl is incredible. Tom Petty, when they pointed it out to him, he loved it.
Yeah.
He even invited the Strokes to open for the Heartbreakers on tour in 2006. So that's cool. Also, the music video for Last Night and some of the other music videos they've done for the album, it was directed by Nicolas Cage's cousin, Roman Coppola.
Wild.
Small world. But anyway, if Last Night is the best song on the album, then we're definitely breaking your All Rise theory. Your Stocks analogy is going down the drain no matter what the next song is. Even though Hard to Explain should be a pretty gentle fall.
No, I think the back half of this album still, the Stocks metaphor holds, because it's what Stocks are kind of doing right now.
What, like just dropping?
Falling, yeah.
That's a shame. Hard to Explain was the lead single from the album, actually. The very first one to come out.
Really?
Yep. And it was one of the first Strokes songs ever heard.
Explain that, Strokes.
Explain what?
Why that was their first song?
Oh.
Their lead
Oh,
single?
yeah, why it's hard to explain. Right, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it was a good song, and that's why they put it out first. It was actually originally a double A-side with a song called New York City Cops, a song that we'll talk about more just in 2 seconds. But Hard to Explain, NME said that it was one of the 3 best songs of the entire decade. Like, that can't be true. Unless the decade they're talking about was like the 90s, but that still can't be true. NME, what are you thinking? That is Hard to Explain. That's an opinion that is hard to explain.
Hard to Explain, I put it on the same level as, like, Alone Together.
Yeah, okay.
Barely Legal, that level of the chart.
That's fair. I think that's a good gentle fall from Last Night then, if it is a dip.
I mean, everything's a dip from Last Night.
Yeah, I know. So at least it's a gentler one.
That's the high point of the album.
Well, up next is a song that almost wasn't on the album, and it's the least popular song on the album, and that's probably why it almost wasn't on the album. When It Started. So, When It Started used to not be here. It was originally a song called New York City Cops, right? The double A-side with Hard to Explain that I mentioned not 3 minutes ago. But in early September 2001, New York City was subjected to terrorist attacks, right? 9/11, big deal. When 9/11 happens and the first responders are so valiant and risking their lives and so brave, it is, incredibly poor optics to put out a song like New York City Cops, where, it kind of talks about them being dumb and not good at their jobs and, just not a good song you want to put out after a major terrorist attack. So they swapped it out and they put When It Started there instead. When It Started is a happy, sunshiny, peppy little song. And it's another one that you might have recognized. Was it familiar?
It was not.
No? Wild. When It Started was actually a part of the soundtrack for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's in the movie proper or in the credits or just on the soundtrack album, but that is what it is for.
Hang on.
It is related in some way to Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's in the film. Hang on.
Yeah, I guess it's playing
Oh, I found it.
in the car that picks up Mary Jane.
Yeah, there's no way I was going to recognize that. Here's the clip.
I'm watching it now.
You can barely hear it.
Oh, you can definitely barely hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so hardly there.
Sorry I didn't recognize that. Sorry I let you down and didn't recognize.
No, you didn't let me down. You let the Strokes down.
I'm sorry, Strokes.
At least you're not stroking their ego.
Definitely not doing that.
No, I get the feeling your score is about to be subpar. But we got a little more to go before we figure that out for sure. For you, the Strokes are really trying their luck. Trying Your Luck sounds a lot like a lot of songs on this album. I'll be frank. It sounds a lot like Soma, but more monotone. Its working title was This Life, and that's about the only super interesting thing I have to say about it. I can't believe it's more popular by a good amount than When It Started. I actually like When It Started quite a bit.
When It Started's okay. I like Trying Your Luck more than When It Started.
You do? Okay, you're in the opposite camp than I am.
Yeah. So to me, we kind of had a little dip with When It Started. We've been kind of going down a little bit. Last Night, Hard to Explain, it's kind of a soft dip. When It Started was a little bit bigger of a dip, but now we're kind of back up for a second on Trying Your Luck.
That's nice. That's all right. And also, I want to say, we have not talked much about the lyrics on this album, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's okay, yeah.
I think they're pretty uninspiring. It's just as from a general standpoint.
Yeah, there's a reason we haven't talked about them.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times they go for pretty easy rhymes. His words are are obscured by that vocal style anyway. I mean, the real feature of this album is the guitar and the way that they construct it, and honestly, even just the way that he delivers the lyrics, way more than what the lyrics are. And they're not bad. They're okay enough to support the album, but I just don't, none of them stand out as particularly wow, you know? Take it or leave it is how I feel about the lyrics. You can take them, you can leave them. They are here. But Take It or Leave It is the last track on the album. It's our last new friend. I actually like Take It or Leave It a lot. I think it's one of the best closers you could put on this. It feels, for some reason, like a very fitting closer to the album in the way that they structure the chorus and the way that they put that guitar riff that kind of mirrors his yelling, hooting, and hollering. Take It or Leave It is a song that makes a lot of sense to me, and I like that. It's got an interesting chord structure. There's some descending chords in there that I really like. Let You Down parts. It's pretty good. And his vocal is just way more aggressive on Take It or Leave It than it kind of is anywhere else on this album. It's that last little bit of pent-up energy evaporating into the ether as the album kind of comes to a close. What do you think? Is it higher or lower? Better or worse than Trying Your Luck?
I think it's a decent closer. I think Trying Your Luck was a better closer, but maybe that's just because I like it better.
Wow. Slander.
Either way, the album's over.
Yeah. Do you think we'll take it or leave it?
I think I'll leave it.
I think I'll take it, actually. We'll get into final spin.
I'll leave it, minus a couple songs. I'll take a couple.
Okay. You'll probably leave Take It or Leave It. That's ironic. This album kind of reminds me of a lot of other things we've done. Obviously, the Velvet Underground influence is there. It reminds me a lot of Vampire Weekend, which came after them. You know, so Vampire Weekend, again, probably drew from this. It's obviously not the other way around, but this has a little more grit and punch and like dirt to it. I like that raw live sound. I like their energy. I like that this is a 35-minute romp through early alt rock. I think that's really cool. It sounds 2001-y. Maybe there's an element of nostalgia in here. Can't be sure. But for me, I'm giving the music an 88, and it's not a ton for the vocal melodies, but I think when they do write a good melody, they find a good way to let it play with the guitar melody and the instrumentals that are going on with it. I think that interwoven style is really cool. It happens on Soma, it happens on Someday and Last Night, it happens on Trying Your Luck and Take It or Leave It. There's a lot of places where the relationship between what they're doing with the guitars and what they're doing with the vocals, I really like. So the music gets an 88. Lyrics, 84. Again, not too much to say. Kind of just middle of the road here. Not bad. Not distracting in any way, but they're fine. I just don't feel like many of them matter, and that's okay. 91 for instruments and production. I like this raw style. I think there's not a lot that's like it. Again, it can get a little fatiguing by the time you get to the end of it, but that's why all these songs are 3 minutes or less, and this whole album is, almost half an hour. You fly through this thing. So I'm giving the overall vibe a 90. I think this album was important. I think this album, you talked all the way down to the album cover. This album opened up a lot of dialogue about the direction that alt-rock was headed. This album did a lot to pivot the conversation around post-punk, and I think that's really important and cool. So I think the historical element of this album helps put it on a pedestal and give it a higher vibe score too. So for me, overall, it's an 88.5, number 168 on my ranking list, which lands it above Lil Nas X's Montero and below Noah Kahan's Stick Season.
Interesting.
I get the feeling I'm about to hear a very opposite sounding score and sentiment from your camp.
Yeah, well, this album left me with one question.
Yeah? Is there a question mark at the end of it?
There sure is. Is this it?
Well, unfortunately, the answer is yes.
I kind of understand why their record studio was like, this is what you spend our money on?
Oh, you're with the big wigs. You're with the suits, huh?
Yeah, I've gone corporate.
No, you sold out. Corp-wegian.
I'm a Corp-wegian. There was some diamonds amongst this coal, though. It wasn't purely worthless. My top 3 in album order, starting off with my honorable mention, Someday.
Oh, wow. Okay. I guess that makes sense if you think the album kept getting better and better and better. Mm-hmm. You skip straight over the first 4.
Yep. Then going right into Alone Together, which at the time I didn't mention, but it's quite a good title.
Isn't it? I know. Fall Out Boy does an Alone Together, too.
Then we're going into Last Night, N-I-T-E.
3 in a row.
And rounding it off with Trying Your Luck.
Leaving, as we predicted, Take It or Leave It.
My score, gonna give it 4 Regions of Wegians out of 10.
Regions of Wegians is a fantastic unit. I love it. Now, 4 is kind of what I was predicting. We haven't been in 4 territory in a while.
Regions of Wegians reminds me of Disinterrate Ferrets.
Yeah, it does.
which is what I gave Enema of the State by Blink 182.
So 4 is rare. You've only got 6 other albums in your 4s.
I mean, 4 and below, there's only a handful there to begin with. You don't bring me a lot of stuff that scores that low.
It's true. Tyler, the Creator, got close very recently, but even he earned his 5.
Yeah. And of course, there's always the caveat that Kanye West would be lower than a 5.
That's true.
If he was in episode 3.
Yikes. Yeah. He'd be way lower than a 5 now. Boy, that guy. Well, you gave a 4 for Drake and for Craig Finn. Episodes 147 and 159. I mean, prior to those, you hadn't touched the 4s in, like 80 weeks.
Yeah. And this one's gonna go right above Cheap Thrills by Janis Joplin.
Wow, above Janis Joplin feels criminal too. I don't know about that. Break another little piece of her heart.
Well, I think what it comes down to for between those two is who's singing I can tolerate more. And the answer in this case is The Strokes.
Okay, you like his little drone in a bucket more than her bark.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, it feels criminal to give Last Night a 4, but I'm not giving Last Night a 4. I'm giving the album Is This It a 4.
Yeah, that's true.
It'd be lower if it wasn't for Last Night sitting there.
Sure.
Which leads me into my playlist pick. I'm just going to take Last Night and let you have whatever you want.
Wow. I am shocked you're not going to go for the modern age and take it or leave it. When it started, none of the hits, man. Just going for deep cuts.
Yeah, going for deep cuts. Last Night.
By The Strokes, of course. I think that's fine. I think I'll do the same sort of thing and take Someday as my playlist pick. Look at this album. How can those not be the two that we take?
Yeah.
There's other good stuff here that I do like.
I mean, they're the best too.
But those are clearly the best two. And it would be disingenuous to say any of these other songs approaches my favorite. So, there you have it. 4 regions of Wegians. We're very separated on that. I can't wait to see on our comparative spreadsheet, like how far apart we just put those 2 rankings. I'm actually going to look right now. 108. We ranked Is This It 108 albums apart.
Wow.
That's a very high differential. It's not usually that much, but we've surpassed that a few times. So yeah, that's cool. That's going to do it for this episode. We got more albums coming at you in 7 short days. You're asking yourself, is this it? The answer is, for the episode, yes. For the podcast, heck no. If you want more, you can find us on social media at SpinItPod Official on Instagram and at SpinItPod on X and in most other places. And you can find us on our website, www.spinitpod.com.
Tell a friend who you've accidentally left somewhere about the podcast.
Oh no. And then you could start the podcast on your way to go pick them up.
Oh no.
Oh, I guess you don't have to actively have left them somewhere. You could have just done it in the past.
Yeah, I kind of meant someone you've accidentally left in the past.
Like ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Marvelous. Good plan. We will see you next week. And until then, and as always, keep spinning. Well, I think we did it. I think it is just about time for your lifeguard to be back. So you can get back in the pool soon. His break should be about done, right?
Yeah, he's coming back out now, actually. So we need to wrap this up.
That's good. I understand why you didn't want to swim with the Mixtaper on duty. Dastard on duty. Swim at your own risk.
Yeah, luckily he seems to have left for his next Starbucks shift, so I'm in the clear.
Oh, good. What strokes are you going to practice now? Knowing what you know about these strokes, are you going to change anything about your own strokes?
Yeah, well, I've really been wanting to work on my combat side stroke.
Is that a swimming stroke?
Yeah.
Combat swimming?
Yeah, maybe my trudgeon stroke?
I don't like that one. I'm a trudgeon curmudgeon.
If all else fails, I'll just play around and do some freestyle.
Yeah, buddy, freestyling in the pool. It's fun to stay at the YMCA, or so I'm told.
Man, you really just don't get us.
Us?
The YMCA people.
Young men?
Yeah.
There's a place you can go. I said young men. When you're short on your dough, you can
stay there. It's fun to stay at the region of Wegian.